Ever feel like you're just trying to keep your head above water
Right.
while the demands of life keep piling up, and finding like a real sense of calm feels like a distant dream? Like,
Yeah.
what if you had some kind of ancient wisdom, surprisingly relevant even today, and that could give you a path towards that inner peace?
It's amazing how that very human desire for a balanced life, a contented life, persists for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And today we're diving into Seneca's Letters from a Stoic. It's a treasure trove of insights from this very interesting guy in Roman history.
Seneca, yeah, and when you think of ancient philosophers, you kind of picture someone removed from the real world. But Seneca, well, let's take a closer look. I mean, this was a guy deeply involved in the Roman political world, served in public life, even as a key advisor to the infamous Emperor Nero,
Right.
and his early career saw some serious influence. But as often happens in those circles, envy and suspicion arose, particularly under Caligula, who reportedly wanted him gone.
Wow.
It's kind of ironic he was spared because of his poor health. But later on, after retiring as Nero's reign took a dark turn, Seneca dedicated his final years to writing these letters, reflections really honed by a life of power and adversity. And despite ongoing health challenges and his background as someone who wasn't born into the Roman elite, he achieved a considerable amount of success in his time.
That's what makes his writing so powerful.
Yeah.
His philosophy wasn't some abstract theory. It was tested in the intense pressures of Roman society, the complexities of political maneuvering and personal hardship, and his own journey, marked by both success and forced withdrawal, ultimately culminating in his compelled suicide, provides a profound depth to his understanding of how to navigate life well.
Yeah, so for this deep dive, our goal is to extract the most valuable lessons from these letters, specifically for you, the listener, someone who wants to understand these enduring ideas without getting lost in dense academic analysis. Think of this as your shortcut to being well-informed on some truly timeless wisdom.
Yeah, and we'll be focusing on several key themes that kind of weave through Seneca's writing. He consistently encourages us to question the norms we often take for granted, to really lean into the strength of our own reasoning. He explores the ways our desires can ensnare us and offers guidance on managing our often tumultuous emotions. And the importance of genuine friendship is also a recurring motif, as is the fundamental question of how to face life's inevitable difficulties.
Right, so let's jump right in. One of Seneca's core principles is this idea of living in accordance with nature and reason. So what does that practically mean for you, the listener, in your life today?
Here's a key insight for you. Seneca urges us to look beyond the artificial constructs, the things that our society often promotes. Living in accordance with nature, for him, involves stripping away those superfluous desires and focusing on what truly sustains us. Think simple nourishment, basic shelter, essential clothing, the fundamental things we need. But it goes deeper. Seneca highlights our unique human capacity for reason. And he viewed this as what distinguishes us from other creatures, a connection to what he called universal reason.
Universal reason? That sounds like a pretty big concept. How can we understand that in a more practical way?
Think of it as this inherent rationality and order that Seneca believed underlay the cosmos. Our own capacity for reason being like a spark of that universal intelligence. So living according to reason means actively using our ability to think critically and logically to guide our choices, rather than just blindly following trends or immediate impulses.
So it's about using your own judgment, your ability to think things through, to steer your life instead of just going with the flow.
Exactly. It's about actively cultivating and refining this rational part of yourself. For Seneca, this reasoned approach is the key to navigating life's complexities and achieving that inner balance you're searching for.
Now, on the other side of the coin, Seneca identifies some pretty big obstacles to peace, and he doesn't hold back in his assessment, does he?
Not at all. He saw ambition, that relentless pursuit of power and status, as a major source of inner turmoil. And luxury, with its endless cycle of wanting more, is another significant disruptor. But he particularly condemns avarice, that insatiable greed for wealth. What's really telling is his contrast between seeking external validation, the approval of others, the accumulation of possessions, and cultivating inner contentment. For Seneca, true peace isn't found in external factors, but within your own mind. So for you, the listener, constantly chasing that next promotion or the newest gadget might be costing you the very inner peace you desire.
It's a message that still hits home today, doesn't it? I mean, we're constantly bombarded with this idea that more stuff, more recognition will equal happiness. But Seneca's saying that's a path to constant dissatisfaction.
Precisely. That constant yearning for external things keeps you on this treadmill. You're never truly satisfied with what you have. And this leads to a crucial point, the potential critique of Stoicism and the seemingly unreachable ideal of the wise man.
Ah, yes. The sapiens. It always struck me as this kind of perfect being, almost impossible to achieve.
Yeah, you're not alone in that feeling.
Yeah.
It seems some Stoic teachers presented this figure as someone who achieved perfection suddenly through some kind of dramatic transformation, and they often didn't focus enough on the gradual and often messy process of self-improvement. And this incredibly high standard could be very discouraging, maybe even leading people to suppress their normal human emotions in this rigid pursuit of apatheia, this idea of being immune to feeling. And there's even a story of Cato, a very highly respected Stoic figure, regretting having stifled his emotions.
That's surprising to hear. It kind of makes the whole philosophy seem a bit more, well, human, less like this unattainable ideal.
Exactly. And this is where Seneca's practical wisdom truly shines. He saw philosophy not as some abstract intellectual exercise, but as a mistress for curing souls, for bringing calm and order to those feverish minds chasing the wrong things. And he famously said, "What we say should be of use, not just entertaining." So for Seneca, philosophy was a tool for living a better life, not just some topic for academic debate. So the key insight for you here is that Seneca's philosophy is about progress, not instant perfection.
So for him, the practical benefit of philosophy, how it helps us live, was far more important than the abstract theories behind it.
Absolutely. Even contemplating the vastness of the universe was secondary for Seneca, something you might do in your free time, if at all. His main concern was how philosophical principles could speak to our condition, offering tangible guidance for your everyday life.
And it's interesting to think about how this down-to-earth approach might have contributed to Seneca's lasting impact. I mean, he wasn't just writing for other philosophers.
Not at all. His writings resonated deeply throughout history. Thinkers like Chaucer and Petrarch admired him greatly, and the invention of the printing press broadened his audience even further, and someone like Erasmus produced a critical edition of his work. And remarkably, Calvin's first major publication was on Seneca's De Clementia, an essay that even influenced parts of Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice.
Wow, that's quite a legacy, from a Roman advisor to influencing Shakespeare.
Indeed. And his influence stretches even wider.
Yeah.
Emerson encouraged people to include Seneca in their personal Bible, and Baudelaire even credited him, alongside figures like Jesus and Plato, with shaping modern civilized manners. And this really speaks volumes about the practical wisdom people found in his writings across the centuries.
So another thing that really stands out is Seneca's warning against constant travel and restlessness. He saw that as a sign of a sick mind, didn't he?
Yes. He observed that some people are constantly seeking a change of scenery, hoping that a new place will somehow resolve their inner turmoil. But Seneca argues that a change of character, not a change of air, is what you need. He uses this very powerful analogy, quoting Socrates, who said to someone complained about this very same thing, "How can you wonder your travels do you no good when you carry yourself around with you?" So for you, the listener, constantly planning that next escape might be a sign that you're avoiding something internal.
It's like trying to run away from yourself. No matter where you go, your anxieties and worries are still right there with you.
Exactly. Seneca believed that true poverty lies not in having little, but in constantly wanting more. And he distinguishes between genuine productivity and the restless energy of a hunted mind, and between true relaxation and spineless inertia. He shares this very thought-provoking quote from Pomponius. "Some men have shrunk so far into dark corners that objects in bright daylight seem quite blurred to them, advocating for a balance between activity and rest, rather than constantly fleeing from your own thoughts."
It's about finding that contentment within rather than seeking it externally through constant motion. That kind of connects to his views on wealth and possessions, right? He wasn't advocating for extreme deprivation, but for something more balanced.
Exactly. Seneca wasn't saying you should live in absolute poverty. He believed you shouldn't be extravagant, but neither should you equate a lack of material wealth with a virtuous life. His goal was a way of life better than that of the mob, avoiding the extremes that lead to alienation. And he wisely observed that anyone entering our home should admire us rather than our furnishings. So the true mark of your character, he suggests, is being able to treat simple things with the same respect as valuable ones, indicating an inner stability that isn't dependent on material worth. He even considered finding wealth an unbearable burden as a sign of an unstable mind. So the key takeaway for you is to focus on your own character, not on accumulating possessions to impress others.
So it's about perspective and not being overly attached to material things, whether you have them or you don't. It's about your inner values.
Precisely. And this leads us to this very powerful Stoic insight from Mikado that Seneca shares. Cease to hope and you will cease to fear. It's a profound connection between our desires and our anxieties. By limiting your desires to what's truly necessary, you naturally reduce the things you fear losing or not obtaining.
It makes a lot of sense. If you're not constantly chasing after something, you're less likely to be afraid of not getting it. Now let's move on to something maybe a bit more positive. Friendship. Seneca places a very high value on it, doesn't he?
He does. For Seneca, nothing truly brings joy when experienced in isolation.
Yeah.
He believed that having someone to share your life with is essential, but his concept of friendship goes way beyond casual acquaintances or relationships based on mutual benefit. He stated that the purpose of friendship isn't about what you can gain, but about having someone to be able to die for, someone I may follow into exile, someone for whose life I may put myself up as security. He sharply distinguishes this from what he calls business deals, disguised as friendship, where personal gain is the primary motivation. So for you, the listener, Seneca's definition of a true friend is someone you'd stand by in the toughest of times, not just someone you socialize with when it's convenient.
That's a really high standard for friendship. It's about deep loyalty and a shared sense of purpose, not just transactional relationships.
Exactly. And he addresses this idea that the wise person is self-sufficient, but clarifies that this applies to inner contentment, your internal state of peace. For the practical realities of living, the actual business of living, Seneca acknowledges that many things are needed, and genuine friends are paramount among them. He shares this very powerful anecdote of Stilbo, who after his city was captured and he lost his family and possessions, declared, "I have all my valuables with me," referring to his virtuous character. And this really illustrates Seneca's belief that true wealth lies within. But it doesn't diminish the importance of genuine human connection.
That story of Stilbo is incredibly impactful. It really puts things into perspective. Seneca also talks about the importance of having role models, right?
He does. He adopts Epicurus's advice. We need to set our affections on some good man and keep him constantly before our eyes, so that we may live as if he were watching us and do everything as if he saw what we were doing. And Seneca explains that this provides you with a guardian and a moral tutor, helping to purify your inner life. He suggests choosing a role model like Cato, if you find his strictness inspiring, or someone perhaps less severe like Laelius. So the key insight for you is to identify someone whose character you deeply admire and whose example can guide your own actions.
It's like having this internal compass, guided by the example of someone you respect deeply. Now, shifting gears a bit, Seneca also touches on our physical existence, viewing the body almost as a temporary vessel.
That's a good way to put it. Seneca viewed the body as potentially a burden to the spirit. Its desires and limitations, sometimes hindering your pursuit of wisdom and inner peace. He emphasizes the need to control your physical appetites, to create more room for the spirit. And he contrasts the fleeting nature of physical strength and beauty with the enduring development of the mind. He advocates for prioritizing mental exercise, which, unlike physical prowess, isn't diminished by age or physical limitations. So, for you, the listener, while physical well-being is important, Seneca would argue that cultivating your mind is a more lasting and valuable pursuit.
So, while not saying we should neglect our physical health, he's definitely saying that our mental and spiritual development should take precedence in our efforts for self-improvement.
Absolutely. And in what might seem like a contradiction, Seneca argues that you can truly live for yourself by living for others.
How does that work? That sounds very counterintuitive.
Here's a fascinating insight. Seneca understood our fundamental interconnectedness as human beings. He believed that true happiness doesn't arise from a purely self-centered existence, but from nurturing bonds with others and recognizing our shared humanity, a common law for mankind. And friendship, in this context, creates a community of interest, where both successes and setbacks are shared, lessening their impact and amplifying joy. As Seneca so eloquently put it, you should live for the other person if you wish to live for yourself. So for you, the listener, investing in genuine relationships isn't just altruistic, it's a key to your own well-being.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together, and that contributing to the happiness of others ultimately enriches our own lives. Now, at a topic that understandably causes a lot of anxiety is death. How does Seneca approach this inevitable part of life?
Seneca confronts the fear of death directly. He even had a practice of imagining his own death, like a testing time for his life, to assess his progress and ensure his courage was genuine. He uses the powerful image of clouds passing before the sun, never truly overcoming its light, to illustrate the enduring nature of the spirit. He urges you to actively work towards virtue without delay, emphasizing that a well-lived life is complete at any point of departure. He shares Tullius Marcellinus's inspiring advice that while living is common, dying honorably is a great achievement, encouraging you not to fear what is unavoidable. There's even a stark anecdote of a German gladiator who chose a swift death over prolonged suffering, highlighting the ever-present freedom from life's burdens. So for you, the listener, Seneca's message is to accept mortality and focus on living a virtuous life in the present, which will diminish the fear of the end.
So it's about accepting that death is a part of life, focusing on living well now and not letting the fear of the end paralyze us. And what about illness? That's another physical challenge that we all face.
Seneca advises approaching illness with a noble spirit. He reminds you that pain is often intermittent, and that even in intense suffering, nature provides moments of respite. He argues that unhappiness during illness often stems from an excessive focus on the body rather than the spirit. He emphasizes the importance of mental pleasures, which illness cannot diminish. Ultimately, overcoming the fear of death makes physical discomforts more bearable as you recognize them as temporary challenges. So the key insight here is to cultivate your inner resilience, so your well-being isn't solely dependent on your physical state.
It's about shifting your focus from the physical discomfort to the strength and resilience of your mind. And Seneca also seems to be a big advocate for making the most of our time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He stresses the immense value of each day and the need to guard against being robbed of your time by trivial distractions. He advocates for dedicating yourself fully to the pursuit of wisdom, not just in the leftover moments after other activities. Time, for Seneca, is your most precious resource and should be used intentionally and thoughtfully. So for you, the listener, Seneca's message is to be mindful of how you spend your time and to prioritize what truly matters.
It's a powerful reminder in our constantly connected world where distractions are everywhere. For some, retirement is a significant life transition. So how does Seneca view this period of life?
Seneca distinguishes between a retiring life and a spineless one, using the example of Vasia, who simply withdrew from public life without any real inner transformation. Seneca emphasizes that true peace of mind comes from within, not from a specific location or a lack of activity. He encourages you to maintain connections with friends regardless of physical distance, as the spirit is always present. Retirement, for Seneca, should be a time for meaningful engagement and reflection, not just passive withdrawal. So the key for you is to consider what meaningful pursuits will fill your time rather than just focusing on stopping work.
So it's about what you do with that time, not just the fact that you're no longer working in a traditional sense. And in our busy lives, we're often bombarded by external noise and distractions. Seneca had some thoughts on dealing with that, didn't he?
He did. He shares his own experience of enduring the clamor of a bathhouse by consciously focusing his mind. He notes that voices tend to be more distracting than just general ambient noise. His key takeaway is that you can train yourself to withstand distractions through practice by intentionally directing your attention and not allowing external stimuli to disrupt your inner peace. And this is the very valuable skill for you to cultivate in our noisy world.
It's like mental discipline, training yourself to filter out the noise and focus on what truly matters. And when the external world is quiet, Seneca also delves into the inner turmoil of the restless mind.
Yeah, he describes the condition of someone who might be physically still but mentally agitated, constantly worrying and fretting. He emphasizes that true rest requires peace of mind, that the mutiny within needs to be suppressed. The body lying down is no guarantee of inner tranquility. You need to actively cultivate a calm and ordered mental state. So for you, the listener, true rest involves quieting your inner anxieties as much as finding physical stillness.
It resonates, yeah. You can be physically still, but your mind can be racing a mile a minute. Now, dealing with loss is an inevitable part of life. What's Seneca's perspective on grief?
Seneca acknowledges the natural pain of losing a friend, but cautions against excessive and prolonged grief. He reminds you that fortune gives and takes away, and therefore you should cherish the friendships you have in the present moment. He criticizes neglecting friends while they are alive and then mourning them excessively out of fear of how others might perceive your lack of prior care. He highlights that having other friends should provide comfort, and that failing to cultivate friendships in the first place is a greater loss than what fortune inflicts. He even shares his personal experience with grief over his friend Serenus, realizing his mistake and not fully considering the possibility of his death, urging you to constantly be aware of mortality's universality. So the key insight for you is to value your current relationships and to find a healthy balance in processing loss without becoming overwhelmed.
It's a reminder to appreciate the people in our lives while they're here and to find healthy ways to process loss without becoming consumed by it. Now, Seneca wasn't just pulling these ideas out of thin air. I mean, he was engaged with the philosophical traditions that came before him.
Absolutely. He demonstrates an understanding of different philosophical schools, even referencing Plato's five causes. Material, agent, form, model, and end, and Aristotle's similar framework. And he applies these ideas to understanding the universe with the concept of a divine force as the creator and goodness as the ultimate aim. And this shows that while his focus was practical, his thinking was also rooted in a broader intellectual context.
So it's a practical philosophy, but informed by deeper metaphysical considerations. And he talks about the soul's yearning for freedom, doesn't he?
He does. He views philosophy as a way to liberate the soul from the heavy load of the body, allowing it to contemplate the vastness of nature and move beyond earthly concerns towards a higher understanding. For Seneca, the body can be seen as a kind of temporary dwelling, and philosophy offers the means to unlock the soul's potential for freedom and insight.
It aligns with his emphasis on the mind and spirit over the purely physical. And he strongly advocates for the importance of philosophical inquiry itself.
Indeed. He believed it's essential to question fundamental aspects of existence, our origins, the nature of the universe, what happens after death. He challenges the idea that we should shy away from these big questions, seeing them as crucial for understanding our place in the cosmos and guiding our lives. So for you, the listener, Seneca encourages a life of continuous learning and questioning.
So life well examined is a key part of his philosophy. Now, Seneca also warns against the dangers of the crowd and conformity.
He does. He cautions against being swayed by popular opinion.
Yeah.
By whatever is approved of by the mob and by things that are merely the result of chance, which he considers potential snares. He warns of the risk of blindly following the crowd towards precipices and emphasizes the importance of independent thought and reasoned judgment. The key insight here is for you to think critically and not just accept what everyone else believes or does.
It's about thinking for yourself and not just getting swept along by societal pressures or fleeting trends. And this all kind of circles back to the idea of true happiness and self-sufficiency.
Absolutely. Seneca reiterates that true happiness comes from within, from being content with himself and possessing a rational, elevated spirit that isn't at the mercy of fortune's whims. He clarifies that this doesn't mean isolating yourself from the world, but rather cultivating an inner resilience and independence of mind. So for you, the listener, true happiness is about your inner state, not your external circumstances.
So it's about inner strength, not necessarily physical isolation. And he has some pretty pointed thoughts on the futility of travel for inner peace, which we touched on earlier.
He does. He argues that simply changing locations won't cure inner turmoil. What's needed is a fundamental change in your character. He again quotes Socrates. How can you wonder your travels do no good when you carry yourself around with you? He emphasizes the need to lay aside the load on your spirit rather than constantly seeking external solutions. And he advocates for feeling at home in the entire world rather than being attached to one specific place. The key takeaway for you is to work on your inner state rather than constantly trying to escape your problems through travel.
It's about addressing the root of the problem within yourself rather than just trying to escape your circumstances. Now, Seneca also cautions against over-intellectualization and irrelevant learning.
He critiques those who merely quote famous philosophers without developing their own insights. He urges you to assume authority yourself and utter something that may be handed down to posterity to contribute your own understanding. And he distinguishes between simply remembering information and truly knowing it, emphasizing that knowledge should become integrated into your being, not just a recitation of what others have said. He also cautions against an excessive focus on liberal studies for mere intellectual show rather than for cultivating virtue, even noting that some teachers of such subjects might lack strong moral character. For Seneca, the most valuable knowledge is that which teaches you how to manage your fears and desires correctly. and he criticizes philosophical debates that lead to uncertainty rather than practical wisdom. So for you, the listener, the goal of learning should be to improve your life, not just to impress others with your knowledge.
So it's about the practical application of knowledge for living a better life, not just accumulating intellectual trivia. And what does he see as the true task of the philosopher?
Seneca believed that philosophers have a vital role to play in helping those who are unhappy, bringing comfort to those in distress, and guiding humanity towards well-being. He contrasts this with engaging in trivial wordplay and sees the philosopher's primary duty as providing real practical guidance for the challenges of life.
A kind of practical guide for navigating life's difficulties then. Now, Seneca does advocate for learning from nature, but he also offers a cautionary note on this.
He does. While he emphasizes living in accordance with nature, he later questions Posidonius' claim that philosophers invented basic necessities like agriculture and bread making. Seneca argues that these were likely discovered through practical reasoning by ordinary people driven by necessity, not necessarily by philosophers in their capacity as philosophers. He even uses the example of glass blowing as an invention that came after the supposed golden age of wise individuals. So the key insight for you is that while nature provides valuable lessons, human ingenuity driven by practical needs also plays a significant role in progress.
So while nature offers guidance, practical ingenuity and necessity also drive human advancement. And Seneca revisits this idea of a golden age, doesn't he?
He discusses Posidonius' concept of a golden age where wise individuals governed and people lived simply, sharing resources in harmony with nature's abundance. While acknowledging the appealing image of this era, Seneca points out that this supposed innocence stemmed from a lack of development and knowledge, potentially lacking key virtues like justice and self-control. He makes a distinction between consciously choosing not to do wrong and simply not knowing how to do it in the first place. So for you, the listener, the idea of a perfect past might be less about superior virtue and more about a simpler state of existence.
So it wasn't necessarily a state of greater virtue, but perhaps a simpler way of life due to a lack of societal complexity. Now, given the unpredictable nature of life, Seneca reflects on the inevitability of fortune's changes.
He uses the devastating destruction of Lyon as a stark reminder of sudden and unexpected disasters, even during times of peace. And he emphasizes the need to anticipate misfortune and strengthen your inner spirit to face potential hardships like exile, torture, war, and shipwreck. He reminds you of the universality of suffering and that whatever happens is never as serious as rumor makes it out to be. In the face of such events, he says, in the ashes all men are leveled. So for you, the key takeaway is to cultivate inner resilience in preparation for life's inevitable ups and downs.
It's a powerful reminder of the fragility of even the most stable circumstances and the importance of inner strength. And this leads into the universality of mortality.
Yes. Seneca shares the story of King Alexander studying geometry to illustrate humanity's small place in the vast expanse of the earth. He stresses that everyone, regardless of their status or achievements, will experience pain, hunger, thirst, aging, illness, loss, and ultimately death. He encourages you not to fear these unavoidable aspects of the human condition. So the key insight here is that mortality is a shared human experience, and accepting it can free you from unnecessary worry.
It's a great equalizer, something we all share, and accepting it can free us from unnecessary anxiety. And Seneca also touches on living for loved ones.
He shares a personal reflection, a conversation with his wife, Paulina, about the importance of taking care of his health because of her dependence on him. And he highlights the duty to continue living for those you love as long as you should, even if it means enduring discomfort. He contrasts this with a selfish desire for death, emphasizing the responsibility we have towards those who care about us. So for you, the listener, Seneca reminds you that your life is interconnected with others and that your choices can have a significant impact on them.
It's a reminder that our lives are intertwined and our decisions affect those we care about. And as we navigate these inevitable shifts in life, Seneca advises on balancing hope and despair.
He suggests tempering hope with a realistic understanding of potential difficulties, perhaps even a touch of acknowledging life's fragility, and conversely, never allowing despair to completely extinguish hope. He acknowledges the inherent uncertainties of life and the wisdom in maintaining a balanced perspective rather than being carried away by extreme emotions. So the key insight for you is to approach life with a realistic optimism, acknowledging both possibilities and potential challenges.
A kind of grounded optimism,
acknowledging both the possibilities and the potential pitfalls. And as we draw this deep dive into Seneca's wisdom to a close, what would you say is the true value of philosophy, according to him? For Seneca, living well is the gift of philosophy, a more significant gift than mere existence itself. And he emphasized that the means to acquire this philosophy are available to everyone through their own effort and reason. He sees philosophy as the path to discovering truth about both the natural world and human nature, and to cultivating essential virtues like conscience, duty, and justice. He concludes with the powerful idea that true strength lies in using your understanding to fulfill your responsibilities and live a virtuous life. So for you, the listener, philosophy is not just an intellectual pursuit, it's a practical guide to living a good life.
So to quickly recap some of the key insights for you, the listener. Seneca encourages us to prioritize inner peace over external validation, to cultivate our reason and manage our desires, to value true friendship and connection, and to prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally for life's inevitable challenges, including our own mortality. This deep dive was designed to give you a clear and engaging understanding of these powerful ideas, offering a shortcut to valuable knowledge without overwhelming you.
And now consider this. In a world that constantly demands your attention and tries to define what success and happiness look like for you, what does living according to your own reason truly mean in your daily life? Is the path to a more fulfilling existence not about constantly striving for more, but about truly understanding and appreciating what you already possess and who you fundamentally are?
Powerful food for thought. If you found this deep dive into Seneca's enduring wisdom valuable and it sparked something in you, we gently encourage you to consider exploring his letters from a Stoic or related philosophical ideas further. You might be surprised at just how relevant these 2,000-year-old insights can be in navigating the complexities of our modern world.